Now I'm going to talk about factors that affect takeoff performance. So weight. The growth rate of the aircraft directly affect stall speed. A 10% increase in weight, increasing the stall speed by 5%. So takeoff. Lift-off speed is generally about 15% above the stalling speed. So an increase in weight will mean a higher lift-off speed. In addition to the higher speed required, acceleration of the heavier aeroplane is lower. Hence, a longer takeoff distance will be required. As a general rule of thumb, a 10% increase in takeoff weight has the effect of increasing the takeoff rate about 20%. The landing weight require higher approach speed, which means the aircraft will have greater momentum and require more runway in which to land and stop. A 10% increase in landing weight has the effect of increasing the landing distance by about 10%.
Today I'm going to share some information about how runway conditions affect takeoff performances. So basically there's two things that we have to look into. First thing is runway slope. The runway slope basically affects the rate of acceleration. So in the case of runway slope down, it will increase the rate of acceleration, which will cause the aircraft to take off in a very short distance. So as for runway slope up, it basically decreases the rate of acceleration. So what will happen is the aircraft will require long distance in a runway in order to take off. For runway conditions, let's say if the runway is covered with water or if it's covered with snow, if there's standing water on the runway, this will actually increase the wheel drag. What will happen is the wheel drag basically it's related to the acceleration. If the wheel drag is great, the acceleration rate will reduce. So what will happen if the runway is wet, for instance, it will reduce the rate of acceleration. Thus, it requires longer runway distance.
I would like to talk about factor affecting takeoff performance in air density. So air density is a mass of the air as per volume of the air. So air density is influenced by temperature and humidity, airfield, elevation, atmosphere pressure. Lower the temperature, higher the density, air density. Lower the humidity, higher the air density. Lower the airfield elevation, thus higher the air density. For the example, with increasing altitude, takeoff distance begins to increase the quickly. In aircraft performance, the term of density altitude is used. Density altitude is the International Standard Atmosphere, that is ISA, altitude with the same density as the existing pressure.
I'm going to talk about aircraft configurations. Flaps are considered as high lift devices. Use of flaps allows the aircraft to create more lift on takeoff and to reduce takeoff distance. When lowering flaps, pilots changing the chord line which increase the angle of attack, which also known as AOA. This increase in AOA causes the aircraft wing to suddenly create more lift and therefore the aircraft will create balloon. When lowering flaps, anticipate the balloon effect by being ready to lower the nose. Takeoffs are optional but landings are mandatory. To overcome this, pilots should make decisions early as to whether or not to take off under exciting conditions in arise.
Let's move to discuss about the effect of winds towards aircraft takeoff performance. Explain what is meant by tailwind that blows in the direction of travel of aircraft while a headwind blows against the direction of travel of aircraft. In aeronautics, a headwind is favorable in takeoff and landing because an airfoil moving into a headwind is capable for the generating greater lift. Impact on the types of wind in headwind therefore reduce the ground speed at a required takeoff distance, and it also affects by increased climb gradient. On other hand, a tailwind increase the ground speed at the same required takeoff airspeed and increase the takeoff distance and reduce climb gradient. Is a type of wind that is a perpendicular component to the line or direction of the aircraft travels. In aviation, crosswind is a component of a wind that is blowing across the runway, and it is also no effects on the takeoff distance.